Hello and welcome. My name is Adrian Sanabria, and I am coming live to you from Oktane 2025 for CyberRiskTV. And joining me today, Mandy Logan. How are you doing, Mandy?
Fantastic. And I gotta say, I am very kind of keyed up about being at Oktane. I think that for me, I feel the combination of serious education, but also like a very kind of curated experience comes together. And I know this is your first time attending. I had the
It is.
Yeah, I had the privilege of being here last year, and gotta say, it's just a very comforting and I feel like, if I can use this word in this way, a secure environment in order to feel like, wow, I want this information.
Yeah. Well, you need some additional things that I don't necessarily need, but I agree. It does kind of have a cozy vibe as far as conferences go. And I'm enjoying there's some nice jazz playing right now.
Yes.
And they've provided refreshments, and they haven't let the people in yet. So it's about to get really crazy in here when they open the doors to the expo.
But isn't it like an awesome expo setup?
It is.
It is. I think it's very open. It's very accessible. And one thing I value about Oktane is the size. I think there's always that sweet spot in a lot of ways to me. That's
it's not
that
crazy, but there's a lot of options, a lot of things to do.
Like 2,000 to 4,000 people.
Yeah.
You get to really zero in because I feel that the high level ability to network here through the hallways, through the lounges, they have quiet zones, and then outside of each session, I've got to say, in my experience, this is kind of like a top 2 for that environment. And so having that environment set actually makes it easier for me to go into constantly discussing AI.
Again, we're not too far from my hotel room, but I am an introvert who can be an extrovert in short bursts, but I do need to recharge. So having the quiet zones, being able to head back to my room easily. I don't even have to walk outside. We're right next to the link where my room is, and yeah, it's I've put on events for many years, for over a decade, and I can appreciate a well-run event.
That's very, very, very true. So since this is your first Oktane, I'm curious, like, when you're looking at what was coming up, the information that was being presented, or any of the options, what drew your interest or made you excited first?
Yeah, I think, so it's one of the topics, AI is going to dominate the conversation here like it has every other conference. But what got me excited here, and you can kind of feel the energy, is that because identity is so important to getting things right with AI and securing AI and keeping tabs on everything going on, because it's so central, it's that linchpin, it feels like we're actually going to get some answers here. Like Okta, Oktane, the other vendors here at Oktane in the expo area here, they're actively trying to solve those problems. So we see new standards popping up, new protocols, just all these new things, this structure, this framework we need to build out this agentic model to where it's not just chaos, like early 2000s or beginning of cloud when there was no right way to do it. There were no best practices. It was just experiment randomly, get hacked, learn, and repeat, hopefully a little bit more securely next time.
Fair. And I would say, looking at the sessions that are offered, looking at the talks that were coming up, and seeing some of the interviews that we'll get to do tomorrow while we're here at Oktane, I really value that. I feel like not only are we at this critical juncture of AI being such a huge shift in process and in our thoughts on how does life in general go forward, but I think that there's also here an ability to speak with some top-notch industry experts that have that 20 to 30 years of experience and are able to contrast it with, like you're mentioning, how it started with the original cloud.
We've seen all the mistakes, right?
Yes.
Like those 2-3 decades, those folks with that level of experience, they kind of know what to expect. They know where things are going to go haywire.
Yes. Yes.
They know where the controls need to be, or at least have a good idea, right?
Very fair. Yes.
Yeah. So what are some of the talks you're looking forward to that you found interesting?
Oh, well, the first one I really zeroed in on was actually pretty early tomorrow morning. Now, aside from the live keynote that is going on right now, aside from the keynotes, there was a talk tomorrow morning about the public sector CIO's playbook on identity, security, and cultural change in the age of AI. And I like that idea of diving into anything related to critical infrastructure or anything related to public sector items that sometimes are away from massive corporate ideology, because there's so much goodness in the practitioners in those areas. So I thought seeing the public sector CIO really discuss what they are doing, how they are transitioning, and the person being interviewed at this fireside chat is the New York State Chief Information Officer and the Director of the Office of Information Technology Services for the entire state of New York.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that to me sounds like a very nice mix of getting the high-level executive information that we need, but also I love being able to switch it over to the in-the-trenches practitioners as much as possible.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I'm drawn to. So that was one talk that I noticed for kind of starting out tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and the challenges are different at the state, city government level. They don't have typically as much budget to play with, as many people. They approach things a little bit differently. They have longer visions, right? The state of New York's not going to go out of business. So very long-term visions when they think about implementing technologies. They think about tech debt down the road. They think about they need things that are going to last, solutions that are going to last long term. Yeah.
Yes.
So we do have a ton of announcements coming out tomorrow. We can't talk about them yet, but I believe it's the embargo lifts at 8 a.m. So you should be seeing a lot of emails from Okta related to Oktane, and there's going to be a bunch of keynotes with these different announcements, new products, new enhancements to products, even new protocols and standards.
True.
All kinds of new stuff at all different levels.
And I think because we got to see information that isn't released yet, I also like seeing the training and the even the keynotes that are on the actual releases. I feel like they've done such an excellent job of setting up to be able to let the tools that are being released be understood very quickly and easily.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the theme of AI in general, right? Everything is brand new still, but even some of the more conservative companies that I work with, that I advise, are just jumping in both feet. There is no time for practitioners to prepare for this. The plane is off the ground. The plane is off the ground. Not all the doors are closed. We keep joking, about identity security fabric. This thing is naked. We are stitching together the clothes for it.
Yes.
We are dressing this thing. I'm kind of mixing metaphors with I don't know, dressing dolls and planes flying in the air, but it's there's just no other way to do it. I don't think. IT folks, security folks, nobody feels like they can say no to AI. The hype is so much, it's so big.
It is, and you saying that makes me flash back to RSAC this year and the Pluralsight report about practitioners' truthfulness on their actual understanding of AI and their AI skills, and how 79% were like, I actually don't really know what I'm doing. And absolutely, how could you? How can you stay completely on top of what is emerging and changing constantly? And yet we have, here being at Oktane, we have these few key companies and huge teams that are, I think a lot of them are very seriously and very heartfelt in how they go forward to let us on the outside know better how to adopt the changing security ideas for AI adoption.
And we have terms already for things that don't really exist yet. Like the idea of true agentic, in that, like, we have agents doing stuff while we sleep, or agents talking to other agents and making decisions while we sleep. We're not there yet. Or at least, the vast majority, 99.99% of companies out there aren't allowing AI to do stuff without a human in the loop while people are sleeping. But we're assuming it's getting there, and that's the framework that we're building for to get to that point. So maybe we are a little bit in front of it. Maybe it's not entirely, out of control just yet.
Well, and it's funny because we also get access to people who are at the forefront of it. Like you mentioning that makes me think of an interview we have scheduled for tomorrow with Heather. I'm so sorry, her name is Kylon, I think. I forgot right now. Please forgive me. But Heather is the CISO for Box. Mm-hmm. And there is, I've read some of their documentation on how they have set up and augmented security teams to have agentic AI that is helping. And I'm so curious to find out, what has it found that the traditional stack hasn't?
Yeah.
Plus, I know they have a human monitor that is still taking care of that.
Right.
But what have they seen, and how quickly have they been able to adjust and then realize, well, using this much agentic AI in augmenting our security stack, that has to be a path forward of really making agentic AI a force for good throughout the entire organization long term.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's and I think a lot of the work is going to be maybe less fantastical, right? It's going to be, help me understand what's changed in this contract from the previous contract.
True.
It's going to be spotting things that would take human eyes a long time. Human eyes would cross trying to read through all the legalese or alerts or whatever that information might be. It's really, I think of a lot of the AI that we're seeing as an augmentation to what humans are already doing. And
can I be honest? Sometimes I just think of them as big macros. I don't really
as what?
Big macros.
Macros, yeah. Yeah, and some of it will be. Like, I think in some way AI is helping us mature in general, where businesses haven't been as resilient as they could be. They haven't been as automated as they could be. I think in this process where we're breaking down our processes, understanding what humans do in their job from day to day, I don't think there's good understanding of that. And in trying to figure that out, we might find, actually, we can automate this using 40-year-old technology. We don't even need AI to automate this. I think we're going to find all kinds of efficiencies and opportunities, because AI inference is expensive, and having it do something while we sleep 24/7, that's going to cost money. So I think we're going to find cheaper ways to do it also.
I 100% agree. That is what we do. We are security nerds, and that is what we push for, correct? I do want to mention, though, here in the Expo Center, did you notice the McLaren that was right over
Yeah.
Did you notice? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I am a big F1 fan. Right. I can totally justify their presence here. One of the reasons I love F1 as a sport is it is very much a team sport. So sure, every team has two drivers, and those drivers can't afford to make mistakes, but they can't win a race if their car breaks halfway through it, right? That has to be resilient. Like you really need every person designing each part, building each part at the factory, testing it to its breaking point to make sure it's strong enough, but also as light as possible. They in a very extreme sense, they kind of pattern the kinds of things that we need to do in enterprises. But because it's competitive, because every team builds their own car, there are other racing series where you just take a car off the shelf and you set it up how you need it. Somebody else builds the car.
Correct.
But in F1, everybody's building their car from scratch. Sure, they're not building the seat belts from scratch or the tires from scratch. They have suppliers for that stuff. But the body of it There's all kinds of places they can mess up and that thing can fall apart while it's driving down the road. And we see that happen. And you kind of get a sense for, yeah, this one F1 team, everybody's operating on all cylinders. The driver's great. The car is not
Correct.
falling apart.
Correct.
The car is fast. The pit crew is really quick, changing all the tires. Like, everybody who has a part to do is really doing their part, and it's exposed. Everybody can see it. I think if enterprises were that exposed and how good their efficiency and performance was, maybe they would be a lot better, a lot more efficient.
Okay, am I reaching here, or does that go along with the idea of why we enjoy open source?
Yeah. Well, open source software stands up a lot better. Like, you can't fake it.
Exactly.
There's no amount of marketing that can fake it when you can just go to GitHub, grab it, and it's either going to work or not work. It's either going to have good documentation or not. And I think that's one of the reasons AI is really taken off, is because there's so much open out there. Like, you don't have to spend a dime. You can go grab open models. You can go to Hugging Face. You can grab all these open, free LLM tools, and you can just build it yourself. And that's why it's moving so fast.
It is.
All right, that's all we have for the intro today. We've got some interviews coming to you very soon. Mandy's going to be interviewing some folks tonight, and then we've got a lot more going on tomorrow. We'll have an intro tomorrow morning, a lot more interviews tomorrow, and I'll also be doing Enterprise Security Weekly live here from the event, and Mandy will be joining me.
And
Looking forward to that.
I know, I am so excited for that. And I want to say, because I don't know if I mentioned it, but I mentioned the certifications that are going on and the other items that are available while here at Oktane. I feel like it bodes well for those who are either, if they're here presently, they won't be seeing us this moment, right? Mm-hmm. But for those who are joining us virtually, I really want to take that moment to encourage that get your companies to bring you here next year. And until you are here next year, then I want the audience to know that they can enjoy this experience along with us and along with Okta as much as possible virtually. And I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I like that. It's something that stuck around with us from the pandemic.
Yes.
That some conferences just decided to keep.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very cool. All right, that's all from us today. We're going to wrap right now, and we'll be, stay tuned. We'll be back with an interview shortly.
Welcome to Oktane 2025. I am Mandy Logan. Happy to be here with Dor Fledel from Okta, and we are at Oktane in this fantastic expo area. But goodness, the happy hour just got a little lively.
Yeah. I love it. We all have a good excuse to be here.
Oh, that's excellent. Okay, so starting with this, since this is the first conversation I'm getting to have at Oktane.
Okay.
And because of your role, which please go ahead and share what your role is.
I'm a senior director of product management, managing the PAM and ISPM products in Okta.
Okay, so with me right now, zero in please. What is one thing that you are most excited about for the customer here?
I think that the one thing I think everyone can talk about AI, so I won't repeat the cliche. I'm actually really excited about how Okta is now really expanding the footprint of support and servicing not only cloud-only companies or cloud-really heavy companies, but also servicing big enterprises or customers that have a lot of legacy environments and really catering not to where the future is, but also where our past was, and really acknowledging that.
Oh, yes. I have to say that I like going back to like critical infrastructure and to baseline operations because we have all these fantastic tools and advances and ideas that are coming forward, and yet we are not at the point that those are all adopted. There is no reason to forget that there's a lot of substantive use in what already exists.
Yeah, and I think that the one thing that I'm really proud of that we're actually as Okta doing. So I joined Okta from a startup that was acquired into Okta.
Yes.
I founded it, I was the CEO, and for us, Okta was the number one pick. And I think a big part of it is how Okta is very uniquely shaping identity in the cybersecurity community.
Correct.
And what I really like about Okta's current approach to a lot of things, we can talk about AI, hybrid environments, a lot of them. It's a two-pronged approach of let's shape the future better together on all the new stuff you have, but also the other prong, which is meeting customers where they are and acknowledging the horses that are out of the barn already.
Correct.
And giving good tools to handle them and advance them to the future as streamlined, easy, secure as possible.
Well, and to me, that's a tenet of all good educational structure is you need to go to where the individual is already.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There is no reason to stay over here and go, oh, too bad you're over there.
Yeah.
That doesn't help anybody or anything. And I've got to say, from my experience around Okta, even within the intercompany focus on training and progress, it is such a refreshing and seems like a very stable concept that runs through all that Okta does, whether it's for your own company functioning or for what is coming.
Yeah.
So I am curious, since we are going to kind of start edging into AI
Of course,
bit,
we have to. We spent 5 minutes not on AI, now we can go back to AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You had your break.
Yeah.
Now we're back to it. First, can we go into actually about the identity sprawl paradox? Okay. Now, for you, what does that mean? What does that conjure for your customer when you think of that?
Yeah, for us, so identity sprawl is big. Customers have a lot of more identities than you can even imagine.
Right.
And many of the customers I'm meeting, specifically in ISPM, specifically in PAM, we call it the identity jungle. Like if you're not part of a 10-people startup that can fit 2 pizzas, you have a lot of identity debt. And part of the underlying reason for that is that identity wasn't treated as the number one attack vector until very recently. And then the paradox, in my opinion, is really about actually the slogan of Okta to securely allow people to adopt technology. On one hand, you want, and same goes with AI agents. I think this is like as material as the cloud wave that really changed everything we're doing. And you as a security team, what security teams are telling me, they want to really accelerate the business as much as they can, but in the same time do it securely. And I think that's a big part of the identity paradox, that you many times wants to allow people, and that comes with built-in risk. And how do you actually allow them to do it with the security team, with the right tools, and we call it swim lanes, for the business to succeed.
Excellent. And that brings to mind to me, kind of going back to ephemeral cloud security.
Yeah.
Now, that is not in the same level of infancy that AI security and adoption are, right?
Yeah.
So on a technical side, and for people in the SOC or people who are integrating Okta, if you could take any experience you've seen from actually securing the ephemeral cloud and applying it to what is something that's useful, or what is Okta providing to technical practitioners that pulls them from the cloud storage to AI?
Yeah, for sure. I think that the main thing that I'm seeing is Okta helping customers get on the maturity curve.
Okay.
Seeing Okta, one of the CISOs I like the most told me, pretty blunt, I'm Israeli, so I operate well with blunt statements. He told me, I don't care about the tool. I care about the business process I have and how can I accelerate it. And sometimes our tools are helpful to accelerate those. So really, as you're thinking as a customer on a 5-year journey, where are you today? Where can you be in 5 years? And how can you make sure that you're getting something that maybe you could have had in 10 years within 3 to 4 years?
Oh, yes.
I think that's what resonating with a lot of customers with very low, let's say, with very high probability of actually hitting it. Mm-hmm. Now, when we're talking about ephemeral access, I think it's a problem that really challenged a lot of customers, moving from very static on-prem to ephemeral in the cloud. And then what really resonates with customers I'm meeting is the maturity model. So you're starting, 95% of the customers I'm talking to say that ephemeral cloud, they have the least maturity in their environment. So it all starts with understanding what you have and prioritizing and being strategic. How is it within the subject, and how is it in comparison to other initiatives you have? And then moving from understanding to vaulting or handling and then remediating. And the last piece is streamlined operations to make the one-off remediations into an ongoing business process. Is really how I saw ephemeral cloud get to a win in customers.
That makes complete sense. I mean, to me, thinking about, I think the majority of success comes down to processes, not thoughts, not this. It's literally you need to have the process in place, and then it frees up what you didn't even realize was going to be freed up. So is there a particular portion of what you get to do at Okta that you see bring your customers' process further into line with a great future posture?
Yeah, so I would love to talk about, about how we help discover and remediate in AI specifically.
Ooh, okay.
So there is a lot that's coming tomorrow, the upcoming days. Can't steal the thunder for my boss. But I think there is a lot to, in the process of, in the past, what customers used to do, and that compounds with AI, is discover a problem in the non-human identity space. Mm-hmm. It took them months and even years to discover that a problem exists, and then realizing how to solve it, and then solving it took sometimes as long as the discovery itself, just because the business process was complicated. What I'm personally excited to your question is that today, for non-human identities and AI agents, we can auto-detect rogue identities. For example, an AI agent that was just spun up, or a non-human an access key that was just unused in the day of, so almost real time, and then automatically, according to policies that customers configure, actually remediate either through vaulting or through decommission. Mm-hmm. And customers are telling us that, first of all, knowing it as soon as it happens is material for them because the business doesn't get used to it. And the second thing is that when things are automated, there is less personal friction and less, let's call it, decision-making in the process that people do allow machines to do in a very human way.
It does, and I think of that as almost like a cleaner form of data.
Yeah.
Right? It's
fully agree.
which I personally, in my journey with AI, I thoroughly enjoy. Like, I actually really get a lot of calming satisfaction from being able to interact with my bots or my LLMs and get the clean data free from the human component so that I can take that data and masterfully adjust it to help the humans better.
I couldn't agree more. I'll tell you a story.
Yes.
We're very often in ISPM, we're helping security teams, and part of the underlying business problem is that identity is split. In the responsibility for identity is split between the identity provider admin, Okta, Microsoft, and even like the Salesforce admin, the AWS admin. They have some identity responsibility because of the admins they have, because of the processes they're controlling. One of the sentences I like the most from the customer is that actually what the tools that Okta now has bring them is a clean set of data to make data-driven decisions.
Yes.
And then it's not a, I think you think kind of a discussion. It's like, this is the key indicator we want to track. This is where today at 20, we need to get to 50.
Okay.
Let's align on a plan. Let's align on the how and not on the what. And I think the data, especially now with AI and the proximity of data, is really helping that.
Ooh, now this brings to mind something about, have you seen a recent quick adjustment in any of those items we view as, oh, that's really not quantifiable, and yet you're seeing, oh no, we are starting to quantify this portion?
Yeah. I've seen, I think the most interesting one that I've seen is AI agent list privilege.
Okay.
So list privilege in general, how much access does Mandy need is a question that's very hard in the enterprise to answer.
If you ask me, I need it all.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. You, like 99.9% of human beings, are control freaks, and same as I, and just want to have the power to do everything and to be accelerated. So list privilege is really not quantifiable. People are talking about an entitlement, but not like how much Mandy has. Is she, from a scale of 1 to 100, what's her overdraft? Is she 50%, 120? Where are we doing? So quantifying that, and I think that now with agents, where it's a kind of like a black box, we want to empower them, but on the flip side, we want to control them.
Oh, yeah.
That discussion just accelerates.
Oh, my goodness. Yes. And to me, that is something, I'm not going to say that it keeps me up at night, right? Because that's not quite where we're at. But even as a mental structure kind of play-by-play, thinking about how the depth that is required to try to guess what do these agents actually do? What do we actually need to try to do whenever there is so much depth of progress happening that is ahead of what can be assumed?
Yeah. One of the things that really comes up when you're saying it is that customers many times, I've spoken with this morning with a clothes manufacturer that people know. And what they told me is we can't be locked.
Okay.
Like, our employees need to work, but we need to have the right level of risk associated with it. We need to have not too low, not too high, the right level of risk for the business to succeed. And I think that especially today, we're seeing how agents are stretching the limits of right risks.
Okay.
And customers mostly tell us, I want you as a tool and data plane to tell us that we're taking the right amount of risk in comparison to our industry, in comparison to best practices, in comparison to our peer groups, and help us shape the right amount of the right discussion, many times with actually the board of like, we're in the right spot in cybersecurity or we're not, and let's get there.
So I'm curious, what is something that you have seen with teams switching from standing access to just-in-time access? Is there any observable data that you've seen in your customers doing so?
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing that I've seen is that So standing accounts is easier for the end user. Why? Again, to your point, you just want access to everything. I think what really was maybe trivial to some, but not for me, was how the fact that the end users, the developers, the system admins, when they can trust that when they would need you, the access, it would be there. It's like a good friend. Like if they earned your trust of being there at the right moments, you would trust them and give more like leash to them. So what we especially found is that when customers actually make the just-in-time accessible to the end users, they can do like a carrot and a stick and take the standing access, which is a material business risk. And we're seeing the news almost every day about how a service account that was just dormant for 5 years got
Right.
a company down.
Right. Okay. Right. Well, Dor, thank you so very much for this. Thank you for kicking off our Oktane. And very quickly, is there one last thing you would like the customer or the people watching to really zero in on?
I think the most important thing that I'm seeing with our most successful customers is customers who view their priorities as a journey and see where can they be in 5 years. Obviously, everyone wants quick wins, but what's the best path to get there is what I've seen the most successful and I admire. Those are, in my opinion, the top-notch security leaders of tomorrow. And the more we can help customers get there and be their trusted partner in the process, I think, and not only Okta, every vendor out there, that would just benefit everyone.
Excellent. Thank you so very much, Dor. Thank you for joining us, and please visit securityweekly.com/Oktane. Thanks again for this conversation, and for those viewing, please stick around. We will be right back after the following break. Welcome back to Oktane 2025. I am your host, Mandy Logan. I am here on the fantastic Oktane Expo floor, and I am joined by Aaron Parecki. Now, I am very intrigued to have this conversation because you focus on standards.
Yes.
That, to me, is a large constellation of undertaking.
You could say that, yes. Yeah.
Yes. Take me back, please. I am a little intrigued. Like, how did you get into the standards route? And then what are you currently really focused on as far as industry standards?
How far back do you want to go?
400 years.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, so I really found myself involved in this because I was building a startup at the time and was building a developer platform and knew that the way to do third-party app access of the developer platform was OAuth. This was 2010, so OAuth was very new, very much in progress, but it was like clearly the direction the industry was heading. And I knew nothing about it at the time, believe it or not, but I had done enough, developing on my own against other people's APIs that I knew that was the pattern to follow. So I just got through the spec one night, and I was like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And wrote a little blog post summarizing what I had learned from reading the spec. And to this day, that blog post is still the most popular post on my blog. But through that process of learning about it myself, explaining it back, building out an OAuth platform for this product, I found myself very involved in the discussions of how it was working. And OAuth was in progress, so I started asking questions on the mailing list, answering questions on the mailing list of the OAuth working group, which it turns out is how you join it. And it's just been very fascinating ever since then. I've always been drawn to those kinds of problems. I think I enjoyed the standards part of the problem more than the actual product that I had been building.
Right.
And found myself doing talks at conferences about OAuth and then doing online trainings and courses. I enjoy explaining the concepts to people, helping people learn it. And now, and for the last several years, I've been extremely involved in a lot of the different work going on in the OAuth working group and closely related working groups as well.
Again, that's fascinating to me because I'm curious if you conceptualize anywhere close to how I do.
Okay.
When I think of, there's all this development going on, right? Around the world, you have all of these pockets of brilliant people that have an idea, that are developing all of these things. And they have a shared constant between them. So when you're looking at standards, you're like, let's build this pillar here that attracts all of this so that we can take what is actually useful and then establish this and make it exponentially more useful going forward.
I think that's a great way to put it. What I would add to that is that a lot of the benefit of doing that and of standardizing it is to learn from each other's history, to have a shared history where we all learn this stuff together, because one of the worst things is having everybody just reinvent stuff and waste time on their own trying to solve this problem, running into the same barriers, and then having to solve those barriers independently, right? So let's work as an industry on this and
yes.
Yeah, we're going to hit some barriers, we're going to solve those, and then we can go and move on to new barriers that we then work through together.
Right.
And it's also one of those fun things about the standards industry is that you get to work with a lot of the people and companies that would otherwise traditionally be considered competitors. And because of it's really the people that I work with, I consider most of them to be very good friends, right? And it's the corporate angle of it is you just kind of ignore it, right? It's we're people working on these problems together, and we can focus on the technology aspect of it, right?
Right. Now, I'm curious, because you have taught so much on OAuth, and you have done so globally, both with, I believe, your books and with trainings and online presence. So now, let's say the last 5-6 years, what are you seeing that as you are engaging with people who are just learning about it, who are trying to pivot or adjust, how are they going, oh yes, okay, these standards are actually useful and I'm willing to adopt them instead of continuing stubbornly on exactly how I want it to be done?
It's definitely it's definitely a mixed bag, right? Like there's I think in the last several years there's definitely like more of an understanding that a lot of the OAuth patterns and OpenID patterns are kind of expected, right? They're there, people recognize it. It's not something people have to like find the way they did like 15 years ago. There are, of course, still the like, oh, we don't like the way that works. We're gonna kind of redo it this other way. And that's where I try to come in and say like, you're probably gonna encounter the same problems because fundamentally this is the same stuff. Like users logging into things and granting access to things is like, that doesn't really change like fundamentally, right? But I would say there's definitely more of a understanding that a lot of these things are there and able to be built on. There is a lot of, especially with the whole like explosion of AI stuff happening right now. There is a lot of things that appear new, and some of it is new, and I have seen a lot of people building from the existing foundation now, rather than saying everything about OAuth is wrong. We have to do it totally different for agents. At least most people are coming in and saying, we understand that OAuth and OpenID Connect are good foundations, but there are some gaps when you apply these to agents.
Of course.
And we need to solve those. So there's a lot of work happening right now of like a lot of different extension points and new drafts coming into these different working groups of like, oh, we're going to solve this part of it this way, and someone else has a totally different idea of how it works and has a different draft that is in total conflict, and it's going to get hashed out, but it's going to get hashed out together in these working groups, which is great.
Okay. So across that entire cluster of greatness, let's say, if you could choose to hard code one standard into the DNA of every AI system that is being developed, what would it be?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I guess it kind of depends on what you mean by one standard, because like
Fair.
OAuth isn't even one standard. It's there's the core, there's a couple of extensions, there's some. It's a lot of building blocks.
Okay.
I guess at the core, the idea, like the thing that is common across all of the OAuth ecosystem is this idea of encapsulating authorization of the fact that a user granted access to something.
Right.
And then that gets represented in a bunch of different ways, where it's represented in an OAuth redirect flow where the user clicked a button on a screen. It can be represented as a jot, where it's a token that is signed by something else that granted the access, that granted the authorization. It can be sometimes implicit, as in like it kind of is more just processing rules that never actually solidifies into a form, but it was there when the system did the processing rules. I'm speaking very abstractly right now, but
you're going to have to right now, right? Right.
But it's I think that idea, that core idea, won't go away. Like it's always going to be there, and I think rather than trying to fight it or work around it, finding ways to really capture that is necessary. So that is how we're going to have to think of this.
Good. So you are very involved with IPSI.
Yeah.
Now, real quick, will you give a summary of what that is to make sure every practitioner is aware?
Yeah. So IPSI, interoperability profile for secure identity in the enterprise. A lot of words, but it sounds fun when you say it as the acronym.
Yes.
And so it's a OpenID Foundation working group, which I am one of the co-chairs of the working group. So we lead the discussions every week about making this stuff more secure in enterprise contexts. So in particular, what we're doing is not writing new standards. We're trying to say, what are the standards people use in the enterprise today? And how could they be more secure or more interoperable? So a lot of people do use OpenID Connect in the enterprise. So we are working on a profile for OpenID Connect that says, this is the enterprise level secure version of OpenID Connect if you do it this way and you don't do these other options. And the goal of that is to make it more interoperable so that if an IDP and a SaaS app supports IPSI, then we know that they'll work together. Whereas it is not really actually the case that you can just say, yes, I support OpenID Connect and expect things to just work. There's a little bit more you have to configure for it to work.
Right.
And that's like a lot of standards are that way. A lot of them are frameworks or flexible for good reason so that when they're applied in different contexts, there's at least a common base, but then you can kind of apply the contextual needs differently. So one example is like, also an OpenID Foundation working group is called FAPI, and they develop a high security profile for OAuth, which originated with the need for banking ecosystems to use OAuth.
That's actually what I was going to. I was thinking about, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so you can imagine in the banking ecosystem, there are like industry regulations. There's a very high appetite for high security. They don't want the lesser secure ways to do things. But that's very different from a like consumer API where they might prioritize user experience over security.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, right.
And it's not that either one of those is always right or wrong. It's just that within an ecosystem, they have different needs. And within that ecosystem, ideally, things would be interoperable. So if you take a look at all of OAuth, there's a ton of options. There's a lot of different ways you can apply it and use it, and options you can turn on and off, and different ways to arrange the different building blocks, which is great because it means you can use it for consumer grade things. You can use it for the high security banking APIs. You can use it as the basis for IPSI doing OpenID Connect in the enterprise.
Okay.
It's just that once we actually start talking about one vertical or one focus area, we do want to start tightening it up and reducing the options so that it meets the security needs of that group and is interoperable. So that's my long answer for what IPSI is doing, is developing these interoperable profiles of existing standards that we currently use with the needs of the enterprise in mind, of that being the baseline of where we're trying to agree on the security model.
Now, so aside from our audience being able to reach out to you or your team in order to get more information on standards, I understand that like with IPSI, there are weekly meetings that they could join as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've been having weekly meetings since the group was formed last year. You can go to the OpenID Foundation website, find the working group page there, and there's like the meeting schedule and everything.
Okay.
The meetings are open to join. If you want to participate, you'd have to sign the OpenID Foundation's contributor agreement.
Understood.
It's not a very heavyweight document, it's very easy. And then you can actually participate in the calls, and if you have an idea for like a requirement you want to add into the OpenID Connect flow, or we'll eventually get to shared signals profiling. We now are also working on SCIM profiling.
Okay.
So if you have ideas of like, we wish when we use this vendor, it supported this part of SCIM, but they don't because they never thought anybody would need it, and it's optional technically in SCIM, maybe bring that to the group and we'll discuss it. We'll maybe you can get everyone to agree, yes, that should be a required part of SCIM in IPSI.
Right. So with the meetings and discussions you're having in like, say 5 words or less, what is the most highly debatable topic that goes on in the meetings?
Oh, making me dig up the drama.
We need tea. We need a little bit of tea.
Okay, I mean, this is all, again, these are publicly documented meetings. You can find the meeting minutes, so this is not like I'm sharing any inside baseball here. I will say the thing that has probably caused the most friction is how to deal with a SAML question. So,
Really?
yes, because SAML is heavily in use in the enterprise, not because anybody really wants to, but because it's there. And it is probably deployed more widely than OpenID Connect. And OpenID Connect is absolutely more featureful and a better forward future, has a better future path for doing new development in it, new work in it. But SAML is there. And the question is, should we create a SAML profile for IPSI to define the interoperable SAML bits? Does anybody care? Could anybody even change their SAML implementations based on that profile? or is that code just stuck in some legacy system at this point? So that's probably been the thing that's got the most had the discussions be the yeah.
Okay. Aaron, thank you so very much for joining us. And thank all of you for joining us live at Oktane 2025. To view all of our coverage, please visit securityweekly.com/Oktane. We will be back right after the next break with, I guess it'll be next morning, right? We will be back tomorrow morning so that you can see all of the interviews on Thursday of Oktane 2025. I'm your host, Mandy Logan, and thank you for joining us.